everyone to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting for Tuesday, February 28th for the town of Quispamsis. Before we get going, we got a large audience here. I just want to provide a little bit of guidance around the rules, how things happen. So when the applicant comes up to the podium first, they're allowed to speak. The PAC members can ask them questions. After that's completed, I'll ask if there's any questions or anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against. That's the time that you come up, raise your hand, come on up to the podium. You have a maximum of 10 minutes to speak on the topic. After that, you'll be seated, and we'll go through to make sure there's any other audience members that want to come up. After that, the applicant's allowed to come back up to the podium and answer any of the questions. There's no further questions from the audience after that first initial time. So I just wanted to get some procedure out of the way before we move on. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Brenda?
So moved.
Seconder, Mark?
I'll second that.
Any debate? None being, can we vote, please? No. That motion's carried unanimously. We'll move on to the next item. Item 3, disclosures of interest. Is there any?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll excuse myself for item 7A.
Thank you, Mark. We'll let you know when to come back on, or you'll know. Thank you. With that being, we'll move on to item 4, approval of previous minutes. Is there any amendments or adjustments to the minutes? None being, can I have a motion to approve, please? Kendall?
So moved.
Can I have a seconder on that? Brenda?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we vote on that, please? That motion carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 5, business arising from previous minutes. Can I have a motion to receive and file, please? Brenda?
So moved.
Can I have a seconder on that? Mark Guest?
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a vote on that, please? That motion's carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 6, unfinished business, none being. We'll move on to new business, item 7A. Is a rezoning 640091 NB Limited, 8 Leyden Drive. Jennifer, or can the applicant come up to the podium? And Jennifer, you want to introduce that item, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's right. The applicant, the owner of 8 Leyden Drive, is applied to have the lot rezoned from R1 residential to central commercial, and it's to accommodate parking for the business found at 170 Hampton Road. This has been introduced to council. They have referred to PAC for their comments, and they've also set a public hearing date, a public presentation date for March 21st, 2023 this year in council chambers. Just to introduce the topic, the commercial parking, it's not a commercial parking lot, but a parking lot of that nature is not a permitted use in an R1 zone. Therefore, a rezoning would be required for that to be permitted. A condition of approval, if approved, would be that a consolidation of the 2 properties. So it would just all be 170 Hampton Road, no longer 2 separate addresses. The reason being is the bylaw is specific that parking for a business has to occur on the same lot, as the business is found and has to be no further than 150 meters from that business. And therefore, the lot would have to be consolidated with 170 for it to be compliant with the zoning bylaw. The proposal is for 25 new parking stalls and 5 parking stalls to be relocated from the parking lot at 170 Hampton Road. The site plan that we've been provided did not identify what 5 parking spots were being removed, so that detail would need to be included on a revised site plan. The predictive wet area mapping tool that we use does show that the subject lot is subject to being a wet area. It actually has a drainage easement that runs along one of the boundaries, and also a utility easement all along the rear of the property. Those easements were not presented on the site plan, and a revised site plan would need to include those as well. We did receive a revised plan that does show, in my staff report, I said that we still had some questions about what type of excavation would be required of the lot. We did receive a plan that does show there would be a 3-to-1 slope in that area, and that it would go into the proposed buffer zone, but it would meet the requirements of the bylaw. Engineering has not yet provided comments on that yet, though, but we do have some information. I just wanted the committee to be aware of that. I just wanted to add that a fence permit would be required for the enclosure for the garbage that's proposed, and that we did receive some concerns from neighboring properties. 7 letters have been received. 6 were of concern to do with loss of privacy, noise. All of the letters have been included in your package for review, and 1 letter was in support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jennifer. Could you please state your name for the record, please?
My name is Dino Sapola.
Mr. Sapola, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of PAC or members of the public asking you questions?
Well, I'd like to let you know why I'm here, and I'd like to thank the chairman and members of PAC for giving me the opportunity to be here. I'm here in good faith, and the letters that you received, I personally take offense to some of the remarks. I feel that some of the remarks are a personal attack. That's been going on for several years. The quality of the building in that lot, the work that I did in the last 2-3 years speaks for itself. It's highly recognized throughout the province. People come in from all over New Brunswick to look at my patio, at my restaurant. The quality of work, everything there, has all been done in good faith. I just want to bring that up. And as far as why I'm here, I'm not here to do anything at any of the locations that are presently there, that are properly zoned, etc. I'm only here to ask for additional parking for the staff of people in the mall, and to put up a baby barn to store some equipment from the patio, the furniture, and that's why I'm here, just strictly for additional parking for the staff. And as far as lighting and noise that I'm reading about, pollution, whatever the words are there will be no additional lights put on that property. I have lights at the back of the building facing that area now. There's 1 street light on one side that's there now. The only additional light that will be put on is, if everything goes well, when I put up a storage shed for my equipment, patio furniture, etc. I'll probably have a light there aiming down to the ground for security reasons. If somebody goes out there at night to get something for safety, etc. That takes care of the light. As far as the noise go, there'll be nothing going on that land that's going to cause disturbance. All this stuff I'm hearing about the patio being open all hours of the night, etc. That is not accurate. That patio's been closed at 10 o'clock every night and everything else. But on that land, we're not gonna have rock bands and whatever on it. It's just strictly for staff parking. And as far as the garbage goes, you have to take note that sometimes there's garbage around, and I have people that come by in this weather. It's kind of hard. I got a guy that comes by once a week to try to pick up anything around the building, totally around. And 99.9% of what they pick up are containers, coffee cups, wrappers from hamburger joints up and down the street. It's nothing from my building. But in saying that, as far as my garbage goes, the mall garbage, I'm gonna better that because I've been listening to complaints or suggestions. I'm gonna be putting up, like some of the big commercial places do, I'm gonna build a fence around the garbage bin, so you won't see it. So it'll be black and white. And as far as the place being full of rats, etc., unwanted, unfriendly animals, we'll call them, I have a professional company that comes by all around the clock, and he tells my manager that we're the cleanest place in the valley for any type of rodents. They never find anything there. And by putting this in, it's gonna better the area again, because a little bit of wetland where they could hide would be cleaned up, and it won't attract any raccoons or whatever, because everything will be cleaned up properly. So that's pretty well about it. You know, the complaints that I've been hearing is the garbage, the noise, the lighting, some unwanted animals. And I also want to point out, my company bought that land 25 years ago in good faith to keep the neighbors happy. We bought it to make sure everything stayed quiet. I've been paying taxes for over 25 years on that land, and it's time that I make use of it, because I'm spending money for no reason. Just paying there, just being a nice guy for the neighbors. Now it's time that I try to better my property. The buffer, the bylaw is 10 feet, we're going 30 feet. It's 3 times recommended bylaw. You're not gonna see anything from the street. There's gonna be a big enough 3 times the size of a buffer. There's not gonna be an exit from that land onto Leiden. And that's basically most of what I have to say. And if for some reason I get turned down, I'd like for you to tell me what I can do with the land. I have land there that I can't use, or I'm zoned R2, I can put up apartments there. If I put up apartments there, it could affect it. There could be more noise for the neighbors because of lighting and whatever. Traffic jam because it's on a corner. Cars coming out of a duplex. This year, there'll be nobody going on to Leiden. So we're asking for is additional parking and room to put up a storage shed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That being, is there any questions from PAC to the applicant? Mark, you have one? No? Okay. Anyone have any questions from PAC members to the applicant? Mr. Bishop?
Yeah, so, Mr. Spola, is that area going to be fenced in, around as well too, like inside that, that buffer? Or is it, the only part that's gonna be fenced is just around the garbage bin?
Then around the garbage bin, but there's going to be a 30-foot buffer all the way around, all treated in.
Okay.
You won't be able to see from Leiden, you shouldn't be able to see anything back there.
Okay, so the buffer zone, you're not planting new trees or anything like that, you're just not disturbing that land?
It's going to be natural buffer, but we're gonna probably add in a few trees.
Okay.
Once everything is discussed with the engineer, and I'm gonna see what like I say, I'm here in good faith. I'm not here to pull anybody's chain. I wanna better the business. I wanna better the community.
Mhm.
Like I ran into one of the letters today. I said, I'm just trying to better the community. As PAC can see what I've done to my building the last few years. The resident said, you're better in the community, but you're not better in the street. Well, we're here to do what's best for the town of Quispamsis.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And any other questions from PAC members to the applicant? None being, is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Could you please come up, state your name? Mr. Pola, could you have a seat, please? Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Rob Carvel. I'm a professional engineer. I've lived on Leyden Drive for 34 years now. Leyden Drive has been a really good residential area. It's been a nice place to live. We bought it as a starter home, but because it was such a nice street, we stayed. We raised 3 kids there. The individual who wants to put the parking lot in there tried to put that parking lot in, I think it was 8 years ago or before. And when he didn't get his way, he cut all the trees down. So he has not been a good neighbor. That, you know, that's, I know that's doesn't come in you know, the laws or bylaws, but he has not been a good neighbor for the people of Leyden Drive. My second, you know, 1 was residential area. 2, he has not been a good neighbor. 3, staff parking. He needs 36 new places for staff parking. That seems a little high for what he has there. You know, I don't think he needs that many. They're never full now, so I don't think it's for staff parking. I also believe that piece of land is an overflow for the water that's coming down the hill now, because we have a lot of water coming down the hill from all the things that happened above, and it's flowing down through there. And in a big storm, that place is damp. It gets very, very. You know, I think paving it, you'd create yourself a dam, and it's going to back up. It could only hold so much, and it'll just back up the hill. So that's another thing I have. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to encroach the existing place. So that part of it is you know, will there be no noise? You're taking away the trees. You're going to increase the noise. You're going to increase the sound pollution. You'll increase the smells coming from the restaurants, which I know they have to have, and I understand he's running a business. I get that, but and no more light pollution. There'll be lots more light pollution, and there'll be no noise from the patrons, and the patrons are going to come there and they're going to drink, and they're going to end up on Leyden Drive as opposed to wherever else they're going, and as some people said, you know, they ended up at their doors at nighttime and stuff like that. I've seen the skunks, I've seen the raccoons, I've seen, you know, all coming out of the woods there. So you cannot have garbage, a source of food, and not expect rodents of some sort. They just come. It is what it is. You know, he says he'll put a 30-foot buffer. You know, he's encroaching on it now. If you look at the piece of paper you've given it, he's already encroached on all the land. So, you know, can we trust this individual that he's going to do the right thing in the future? You know, and you know, if he decides to sell it in the future, the business, or it goes to somebody else's hands, what happens then? You know, if it comes from somebody outside Quispamsis who happens to be, you know, Walmart, Volco, somebody, you know. So all these things are going to play against it, play against us in the long term. But the biggest concern I have is well, I have all the concerns, but I truly believe that there's gonna have to be a lot more engineering done there, because I think that's a holding tank or a holding pond for water that's coming down that hill now, because it flows. And we all know that they've put curbs at the top of the curve up Leiden to drive the water down the existing flow pattern that they have that runs behind my house and everybody else's house. So it's happened. Before they put it in there, the water was coming down everywhere. People had flooding that they never had before. You can't take away all these trees and change the landscape and not expect the water to end up in somebody's basement. This is going to take the low spot. That's my say. I hope you guys come to the right decision. And
Thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Would you please come up and state your name for the record, please?
My name is Stuart Hook, and I live at 10 Leiden Drive, which is the adjacent property to the land that's being proposed to be commercial. Oh, and my wife Helena, sorry.
Okay.
One of the major, I did send a letter in detailing about a few details that we feel objected to, our objections. It's quite lengthy, and there's about 6 items. I would presume that the council members have all read it. And in a nutshell, we are really concerned about the precedent that is being set on commercial land being abutted onto residential properties. And if this goes ahead, a precedent will be set for any other business or any other property, even along Leiden Drive. If number 6 or maybe number 10 is sold and it is bought by one of the commercial owners, who knows? That could be, whole side of that road could be zoned commercial. That is our concern. And I wonder, when the patio was constructed and approved, was parking taken into consideration, like the extra parking that was required? Was that taken into consideration during the acceptance, his acceptance and approval for that patio? Also, with Mexicali Roses are now putting a outdoor patio, which is consuming more parking spaces. Are these were taken into consideration when they were approved? And going on to the property itself, there are no coniferous trees on that property, virtually nil. And as it stands right now, all it is brush. And to say that's a green buffer is ridiculous. We can see that back of that property quite clearly. And any noise and any sound or banging of car doors, which will, if it is a parking lot, become a nuisance. We lived there for 35 years. I've placed large trees along the property line of my property to keep that noise out. And
Well, it took that many years for them to grow.
yeah, and it took 35 years for those trees to be mature enough that they block any side out, direct sight from my house. But that doesn't say that from the rest of the street that it's completely open. And a buffer zone it's not a buffer zone, and it never will be a buffer zone, a green buffer zone. Lena, do you have anything to add?
Well, it's a very big concern for this to be zoned from residential to commercial, because we live in a residential zone, and that zoning was set up to protect people like us. We buy a house in a residential area, and there's definitely if this goes through, and yes, it could be a parking lot this year and next year, and again, when the two properties are amalgamated into form one area onto when the number of Hampton Road, then this backing onto Leiden Drive will not be Leiden Drive anymore, and anything could go there. So the unlocked potential of this parcel to become more than a parking lot in the future would be practically irreversible, and we would have no say in the matter when that happens. So that's definitely a big concern. There's also a concern of after hours, when there's a parking lot behind a drinking establishment, it's a magnet for young people to perhaps go out and have a smoke and go in the woods and roll onto Leiden Drive. You know, I don't think I'd feel safe sitting in my back garden now, my side garden in the summertime. I wouldn't feel so safe to doze off in the chair. I'm thinking, you know, that's just a concern that it's going to forever change the whole fabric of Leiden Drive, and also the fact that there is not one example of that on Leiden Drive. It's infringing into the residential area. We have stated many other things in the letter. Yeah, I guess just crime prevention is one thing. You know, it might not be straight away, but you know, it's just something that can happen. Well, we oppose it anyway.
One other thing, with the proposed layout of the parking spaces required, they are all around the peripheral of the residential
Right.
lot, leaving a huge open space in the middle. If that is zoned commercial, what is to stop the owner from expanding his building into that vacant area? Once it's commercial, he or if the
Whoever.
building's ever sold, can do the same thing. We have no guarantees on that.
Yeah.
I think that's about all. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Oh, thank you very much for expressing your concerns. Are there any other audience members or members online willing to speak for or against this item? It's the third and final time. Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, could the applicant please come up to the podium again? Dwight or Jennifer, do you guys want to address just the parking, what they talked about? I think we looked at that at those other two items. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add that part of the package will also be a detailed grading and drainage plan prepared by a professional engineer because we are aware of the very wet area. Also, parking was definitely considered at the time of approvals for both of the restaurant, the Mexi's restaurant, and for the Amici's. And it was during that time that it was realized that the parking was starting to get very tight. But they did meet the requirement of the bylaw at the time. And concerning the parking lot, if it gets rezoned 8 Leiden, that anything could go there. In fact, we take care of those details in the development agreement, where it would be stipulated that that area would just be for parking lot only. And if at any time an application was made to change that, it would have to go to council for their approval first. And the open space, I believe, in the parking area is for the cars to be able to maneuver in and around. So there you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. Spola, you have any further questions or items to address?
Not really. I mean, we knew before we came, our engineer will be doing a more detailed plan. I also understand that there's a developer's agreement that's going to be put in place to protect any hanky-panky, et cetera. And again, like, I'm here in good faith. There's been a lot of the residents moved in several years after that land was built and developed. They're still upset that there's a restaurant in that location. I've been there for 39 years, and the property isn't maintained top quality, as you can see. I was on an airplane coming home from Florida 2 weeks ago, last week. I was sitting next to a guy that complimented me on how beautiful it looked over the Christmas season and allowing the children to go up there and watch the parade. So I feel I'm doing my part in the community, even though some of the residents might not agree. That's fine, free country.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer or Dwight, so my understanding after tonight is going to a public hearing coming up, is that correct? No matter what the outcome is tonight?
That's correct. It will go forward for a public presentation on March 21st, and then for a public hearing in April.
Thank you. Any members of PAC have any further questions? Kendall?
I guess my question is in regards to the sound barrier or the buffer, is would you consider, and I guess from my point of view, there would be ways to create a buffer that would provide more of a sound barrier and also consider the stormwater drainage. So maybe a grade elevation change with trees and things like that could address some of the concerns of the residents. It's difficult to, I guess, make a suggestion to you tonight, but that would be one area that I would look to in order to help alleviate some of the concerns of the residents in the area. The parking stalls, I know that the staff mentioned earlier the 3-to-1 slope and the drainage, the wet area. I don't know if the engineer is looking at pushing the stalls around so that it's kind of further away from the slope so that you're a little bit further away from that wet spot. Anyway, those are some of my concerns that I'm hearing from the citizens. And so you can answer that if you like, I guess.
Well, like I say, I'm gonna hire professionals and gonna let the professional do their job. I'm a barber by trade. I know nothing about slopes. So the engineers will come in, they know what's good. There's no intent of flooding anybody's basement. I don't want my basement flooded. Again, I'm here in good faith. I'm here to better the community and try to provide a service to the community. It's growing very fast. There's thousands of units coming out here in apartment buildings, and we have to compete with our competition, or we might not be around.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Preston?
Mr. Chairman, this is for staff. With regards to the professional engineer coming aboard, stormwater management plan, is that part of the elevation then, or is that a separate item outside of that in the recommendations? I guess the question is, do we need a stormwater management plan to address the concerns of the water coming down over the hill? Be addressed through the elevations and the stabilization work that they recommend.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the stormwater management plan would be required. I'm sorry if it wasn't in my report. My apologies. A drainage and grading plan and stormwater management, pretty standard. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? None being, would a member of PAC like to, oh, Brenda, sorry.
Just quick, when I was reading that, it made no mention of access or ingress to Leiden, but you said there's no driveway onto Leiden?
No, there's not gonna be no driveway going out.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I'm saying. If I was to put a duplex, which is.
Oh, I know, I understand what you're saying, but right now, if this goes ahead, there'll be no
The-
entry off at
There'll be
Leiden
no-
or something.
no
But we
entry.
could put that in the agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know local people use that to go down to the mall. It's a shortcut to go to Tim Hortons and the mall and,
residents up
the,
anyway.
the gym to work out, because they don't want the exercise to go to the gym. But is there something that could be done to make that not as attractive to the people who wander in through there or up through there? If you could look at something to block that in any way? The only thing I think would be like a fence, but then people just probably cut it to get through it, because that is, in the summer, you see that's a path that people do and, walk down through your property to, it's a shortcut. So is there something that we could do to look at that? And then people would not be wandering up through there to Leiden. That's just a suggestion. I don't know the solution, but.
Yeah, that could be addressed in the
Yeah.
developer's agreement, for sure. And,
The path that's there, that's basically where we're gonna be putting the shed, the storage shed, so that should stop it on its own. It'll be blocked.
Thank you.
thank you. Would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please? Brent?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the following motion. Planning Advisory Committee Support Council with rezoning of 8 Linden Drive Road, PID 54619 from residential R1 to central commercial with the following terms and conditions. Revised site plan identifying the parking stalls that are being proposed to be relocated from 170 Hampton Road to 8 Linden Drive. 2, the site plan should include parking stall measurements and number each individual parking stall that it supports. Business located at 170 Hampton Road on the site plan. 3, the revised site plan must also include any easements that impact the subject lot. 4, the revised site plan is required prior to a public hearing date for this application. 5, a report must be submitted from a professional engineer indicating the amount of evacuation that will be required to achieve a parking surface. The report must also include the extent of the excavation and if any stabilization work is required, and if so, what that work will entail. A stormwater management plan will also be required. This detail should be provided on revised site plan and be submitted prior to the public hearing. 6, a lot consolidation of 170 Hampton Road, PID 255232, and Linden Drive, PID 54619, be completed prior to the issuance of a development permit. 7, the applicant is to enter into a development agreement with the town Quispamsis for the parking plan. 8, a development permit is issued prior to any site works. 9, a 30-foot buffer is to be maintained on the south end of the property regardless of, 30-foot buffers to be maintained on the south end of the property regardless of ownership.
Thank you, Brent. Have a seconder on that?
I'll second that.
Mr. Chair.
Any debate on the motion?
Just, I could not hear the last one.
Oh, hang on, Brent. We'll get these cleared up here.
Sorry, Brenda, 9 was a 30-foot buffer is to be maintained on the south end of the property regardless of ownership.
Thank you. Is there any debate? Kendall?
I'd like the two gentlemen to consider adding that a landscape architect be engaged to design the buffer so as to minimize sound and also to, I guess, discourage the patrons from walking from that area to Leiden. And I appreciate it could be an additional cost, but I think it would go a long way to try to help the neighborhood with their concerns.
Okay, we okay with that, Brent? Jaren? Yep. Dwight? Hang on, Dwight. Get you online.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just sort of clarification on the comment from a planning staff perspective as we move through the process. The part of the motion with respect to the 30-foot buffer remaining regardless of ownership. Just as a point of clarification, what we need to understand is once you get into back slopes from the edge of the parking lot, cutting back into that area at what would probably be proposed at a 3-to-1 slope, there is potential that you're actually encroaching into that 30-foot buffer with excavation and removal of trees. So PAC has to be a little, I guess, clearer in their recommendation. Is it maintaining a 30-foot buffer regardless of not so much ownership, but the site work that's involved, which may essentially mean some of the parking stalls would have to be eliminated to get the appropriate slope so that you're not actually infringing on that 30-foot buffer. If you're into the 30-foot buffer, does that mean there's other mechanisms that have to be used as part of the buffering process?
Thank you, Dwight. Brent?
So my question, so can we change that to a 20 to 30-foot buffer based on the engineering report? Would that allow the accommodation of that slope if required?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe what's being proposed is a 3-to-1 slope. So it's that it's manageable and mowable, and you're able to ensure slope stability and erosion and all those types of things. That's on the backside of a drainage swale that would be going around the edge of the parking lot. But to get that 3-to-1 slope means you're actually, right, running back into that area, right? So the more you excavate to get to 3-to-1 slope, then you are encroaching that 30-foot buffer. Now, it may be a 2-to-1 slope, may reduce the amount of excavation, but then it comes back to how do you stabilize the soil, right? Is it a different type of grass, or what's being used, vegetation to maintain the slope?
Can we change that to say the size of the buffer zone to be determined by planning staff and the engineer's report, and to maximize based on those two, based on the professional input of the engineer and the professional input of the planning department, based on their experience in the report of the engineer, that the maximum buffer, if they get into exact numbers, that the maximum buffer be incorporated into the design, I guess. Would that work better, Dwight?
I just, through you, Mr. Chair, what I want to make sure is that PAC is clear on what that will look like in terms of excavation into that particular area. I'm not seeing, and I'm not sure if it's in the PAC package, but there's a site plan that actually shows the 3-to-1 slope and where the excavation, the top of the excavation will occur. I'm not sure if that's, I believe it was included in your package.
I guess my comment would be is, it's 25 parking spots. If it needs to be reduced to 20 from 25 to keep the 3-to-1 slope, that would be my recommendation.
I'm fine with that, Darren.
Thank you. Is that good, Dwight?
So it's, what I'm gathering through you, Mr. Chair, is that it's to maximize the total amount of buffer, recognizing there may have to be an adjustment of parking lots, number of parking stalls to achieve that, and to reduce the amount of encroachment into the buffer area that's being proposed as part of this application. Okay, thank you.
So just to add to that, Dwight, my question is, if the engineering report says encroach into that, can we put into the motion that any remediation has to be done as part of that process to ensure that that buffer is maximized?
It may be reducing the slope from 3 to 1 to 2 to 1, but it's the point of clarification is that maintaining the reasonable buffer as being proposed through the application process is maintained. It's been presented that the buffer is approximately 30 feet, which means to get that particular buffer, there may have to be elimination of some parking stalls or a change in the slope to eliminate the amount of excavation that encroaches into that particular area. Just so that for clarification as we move through the process, once you go into the public presentation and public hearing. And I would anticipate that council would want clarification on that prior to rendering a decision. Thank you.
That is correct. I believe that's what we're looking for. Able to. That would be the only adjustment on the recommendations would be that.
In order to maximize the buffer zone, the number of parking spots may be lowered to 25 spots to keep the 3 to 1 slope unless the professionals can determine that a 2 to 1 or other slope is sufficient for slope stabilization. Okay. Is that right? Did it?
You got her. Any further debate on that motion? Kendall?
I was wondering if the planning committee has agreed we'd move forward with the landscape architect or not.
Mr. Bishop?
I mean, I think the buffer needs to be, you know, either treed or landscaped. Yeah, so yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Thank you. That's okay, Violet? There were the two other additional ones was the 30-meter buffer, 30-foot buffer, 3 to 1 slope, or it could be down 2 to 1. You may lose some parking spots to maintain a significant buffer to offset the residents, and a proper landscaping plan be developed to allow the buffer to be effective. And a stormwater management plan. Yeah, we had that. Yeah, okay. Can we vote on that, please? That motion was carried unanimously because we have one that sat out, Mr. Goslin. So in 5 to 7 business days, you have a letter in the mail with the recommendation from PAC. Just as a reminder for the public, that's going to council and for presentation to council, and there'll be a public hearing for members of the public, which will be advertised, and that'll be April 18th. So at that time, members of the public are more than welcome to come to council chambers and express their if they're for or against this item to members of common council. So thank you and best of luck. Make sure you work with the town to have all necessary paperwork and documentation in place.
Thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. No, I hit it. That being, we'll move on to item 7B, home occupation. Fitness Center at 8 Chester Court, PID 302-03376. Could the applicant please come up to the podium? In the meantime, Jennifer, you want to introduce that item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicants, well, I think the best way to start this one off is the applicants were impacted by COVID-19. They had a business at 80 Millennium Drive. It was a bricks and mortar operation where fitness activities happened. And with government restrictions during COVID, they fought a good fight but were unable to maintain the business. And moved the business to the basement, did online, and as things opened up, started to provide classes in the basement of the home, not aware that an application to PAC was required. A violation letter was sent. They responded immediately and have since provided all of the details that we've requested. The landowners, if approved, will provide 8 high-intensity class half-hour workout sessions Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and 1 on Tuesday and 1 on Thursday. So there'll be 2 classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, 8:30 to 9, and again from 9:30 till 10. The applicants are proposing to use 1 room in the dwelling. The bylaw does require that the room be 25% or a maximum of 32 square meters. The room actually that they are using is 37.1 square meters. So if approved, they would require a variance to section 6K 2D to permit 5.1 square meters in extra floor area. A parking plan has been provided. I believe, I'm not sure if it made it into the package, but it was emailed to you this afternoon. Thank you, Violet. I'm going to focus on the municipal plan for just a moment because we do have something in our municipal plan that does support entrepreneurs. However, it's sort of in a different way than this application is. So the municipal plan basically says that it's there to support entrepreneurs as they're beginning a business prior to a brick and mortar. So in this instance, they've gone from brick and mortar and now going into home occupation. So it's kind of in a reverse format. And we do have concerns as staff that that isn't the intent of the municipal plan. We also have concerns about the number of vehicles that'll be visiting the site each day, as this is a residential neighborhood. And quick calculation shows 32 vehicle visits to 8 Jasper each week, outside of the normal use of a single residential driveway. We've received several concerns from neighboring neighbors concerning the parking, concerns regarding noise, and lack of privacy. It's a very small court, and as one of the letters explained, their front yards are almost shared. It's almost the same space, so it's hard to suss that out. Just want to focus PAC's attention on section 3C of the zoning bylaw, which states, in prescribing the purpose for which land, buildings, and structures may be used, the Planning Advisor Committee may, or so empowered by other sections in this bylaw, impose terms and conditions or may prohibit such uses where compliance with those terms and conditions cannot reasonably be expected. And it's because of the additional traffic that staff are unable to support the application, and our recommendation is to deny. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jennifer. Could the applicants please state their name for the record, please?
Hi there, I'm Cheryl Moore.
Okay, thank you. You would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of PAC or members of the public asking you some questions?
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to come before you and say I did not apply for a business permit. I had no idea that that was something that I needed to do after I closed my business in September of 2022. I didn't sincerely think that that was something I needed to do because of the scale in which I was doing it. I had no intention to close my business. Obviously, I had built a thriving business until COVID hit. I had 7 to 8 classes going a day, 7 coaches. I had 120 to 130 members, both co-ed, and I taught high-intensity interval training. It was amazing, and I loved it until reality hit. I was not the only gym in the area that ended up closing. It was myself, Amana, which was literally in the same parking lot as me. We've got Port City Fitness, you've got Lifestyle Fitness, East Coast Boxing. So many gyms have been impacted, and I know that you guys all know that. I had to make a decision whether I was going to try to tough it out and keep getting further and further in debt, or make a change. And COVID allowed the opportunity for the world to do just about everything. I mean, you're broadcasting this live online, to do everything online. And I decided at that same time that I would no longer be doing high-intensity interval training, that I wanted to work with women going through perimenopause and menopause. So that is a demographic that is not treated, not coached at all, and I wanted to do something, and I wanted to do it more on a global scale. So I decided to take my business mostly online. So 80% of my business is online, teaching women from virtually from their home, and 20% of my business is having just a few ladies coming into my home a couple of times a day, well, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and 2 classes. I pivoted like so many have pivoted and decided to change up what I wanted to do. My sessions are no longer high intensity interval training. There are not 32 people. I don't have 32 people coming to my home. I have 4 ladies that come at 8. Well, now it's 8:15. I've since spaced out my times a little bit more. So at 8:15 for a half an hour. And then I have 4 ladies that come, well, 3 to 4 ladies that come at 9:15, I think we did. So that's a half an hour buffer. It is not unusual for any residential household to have 4 cars in their yard, 5 cars. I mean, I've even seen 6 cars. It is not unusual for music to be playing. I could be downstairs working out. I could own a drum set. It is not unusual for that to be happening in a home. But I realize that there are concerns. I wish that I had the opportunity to speak with my neighbors about that, but they were not brought to me. They were brought to you. So I'm here to address those today. I've asked the clients to, the first thing was the parking. We had some snowstorms. I saw the pictures last Friday of my cleaner and my husband's car on the driveway and a few cars pulling in. I understand that that caused some congestion. Again, I've since spaced out the classes so that there's never 8 cars arriving at one time or arriving and leaving at one time. I've also asked my clients to be aware that we are in a residential area, to be aware of speed. And of course, there's children. I have children. I have nieces and nephews that come around. We're all moms, and they're very, very aware of that. The sensitivity to the car doors, the music, and the talking. Like I said, I've taken the steps to space out the 2 sessions. I have no intention of having any more session. Again, this isn't Hit 30 Fitness. My business, if you look at it, it's Cheryl Moore Coaching. It's not Hit 30. If you go to my website, Hit 30 is no longer. It's Cheryl Moore Coaching. I completely changed what I'm doing and who I'm doing it for. I was training kids, men and women, and now it's just women going through perimenopause. So we've cut down on the congestion that's coming to and from the court. Again, 4 vehicles in my yard at any given time is not unusual for a residential area. The view from the porch being a parking lot, well, we have moved the cars up so that they're in front of the garage. So again, 2 cars may be visible from their porch. But again, I have 3 drivers in my home and another one coming up. That's not an unusual amount of cars that's in somebody's driveway at any given time. Yes, so if there is a storm, I will be out there making sure that the driveway is cleared so nobody again parks on the road, and asked friends, family, and clients to everybody, park in the driveway. The music, so the window in the basement, so I'm in the basement, does face the neighbors, and it could be heard, sure, from the front of their house if the window's open. This is controllable. We'll turn our music down. I'll keep the window closed. The number of people at any given time never exceeds 4, and I've already, again, taken the steps to stagger the arrival and departure times. The reference to the softball team as an organization does not make it a business. If we are going to stand here and start to tell all of those volunteers that they can no longer manage their soccer teams or hockey teams from their home, it's not a business, it's an organization. We volunteer our time, hours and hours of it, for this community to help the girls. So we run a girls softball organization. My husband, yes, is the president of that organization, but it's not a business, it's a nonprofit. And we are trying to impact these young lives so that they get a collegiate scholarship, to be quite frank, so they can go on with their studies and play softball. That's our goal. And that's how we give back to the community. If the real, concern number 2, there was a concern that the kids cutting through the yards, this has no relevance to my business. We don't have, we have some younger kids, but I have children. I have nieces and nephews. We are very aware of the traffic that is there. Everything is done before 10 a.m. Nothing happens after that for my business. If the real issue is the extra cars in the court, leading to higher potential of risk, that applies to everyone who is backing out of their driveway going to work, who forgot something and have to go back. That is your delivery men, your repairmen, your cable guys, your snow plows. That applies to everyone coming to and from the court. In conclusion, there were some of the concerns that were brought up that had absolutely nothing to do with my business. Cleaning up around the baby barn, neighbor having a young driver. I'm more worried about both of our children go to KVHS. If you've been in that parking lot, whether you're dropping a child off or picking her up, I'd be more concerned about that. I'm saddened that it had come to this, again, not knowing it would. I understand that the concern was I took Hit 30 and now I've started Hit 30 in my home. That is not what I'm doing at all. 80% of what I do is virtual, and I just have a few hours, less than 2 hours in the morning where I'm working with personal coaching with these ladies.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? Brenda.
Just a quick one. It was also mentioned that Tower Gardens operates from that business. What is that?
It's not under my business at all. I am a distributor like Arbonne or what's another one? Pampered Chef. So I sell. Yeah, it's multi-level marketing, MLM. It's I sell Tower Gardens, and so I have one, but they're online. I don't have them to give out, and I've invited friends over to come check it out. You know, when you're spending $1,000 on an in-home aeroponic, hydroponic system, you want to see what that looks like. It's really, really cool, and so I invite people over whenever they want, but again, that's not unusual for a residential area. It's not.
And I'd just like to add to that too, is that just the all the 3 things that have been mentioned all relate to health and wellness and mental health and everything, and trying to improve everything. And the mention on the report saying it has to go in schools. Yeah, it'd be a good idea to bring it more into more homes, because it allows families the opportunity to actually grow vegetables in their own home. And it's a ship direct from wherever it comes from right to their house. And I think I can speak for everybody here saying we've been to get groceries here lately. It's not getting any cheaper. So this is a very cost-effective way to be able to provide that to yourself.
Just to follow. Your building that you used up in Millennium, that still has all the logos and things on it. Is there something else going on in that building? Just empty?
It's just empty. The Amana, which is like directly across from where I was, they just took down their sign because I think it's a doggy daycare went in there. So unless somebody comes in, Mark's not going to take that down. He's just, not going to pay. The next person will come in and take that down.
But is that something you could go back into if your business works up?
No.
And I can speak to that from the financial end of it. From the business perspective, is that it's just not cost effective now to go back in to do brick and mortar fitness, because the cost now of rent is skyrocketing, and it's just not. There's absolutely no intention to go back into that world ever again. Especially too of what we do. We coach in the States in NCAA, so we're not here enough to do that and to get into that kind of stuff anymore. As an example, so there'd be financially not even a remote chance to get back into that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant from members of PAC? None being, is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Oh, could you please sit down? Please come up and state your name for the record, please.
Michael King. I reside at 12 Jester Court, which is the property adjacent to the applicant.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank the chair and the committee for the opportunity to speak this afternoon or this evening. It's my understanding that you would have already received a copy of my opposition letter, so I won't get into everything that I have in that. I just wanted to be here this evening just to support myself and support my own letter, to show that we've taken the time to show up here tonight and support our concerns. I'm not going to go into all of them. I will say that we've lived at Jester Court since 2007. Prior to that, we lived at 20 Destiny Lane, which is at the head of the court. So we basically lived in that neighborhood or in the court for 20 years. We've always looked out for our neighbors. We've always been the first ones to welcome new neighbors into the court. And we do everything we can to make sure everybody gets along, and everybody has gotten along for all of these years. I also want to say that there's no animosity, there's no nefarious reasons for objecting to this or presenting a case against it. When the Moores first moved in, my wife went over with homemade muffins and homemade jam and welcomed them to the neighborhood, because it is a very close knit neighborhood because of the way that we're in a court and we share front lawns and everything else. And it's been a perfect neighborly relationship since they've moved in. And it's unfortunate that this has come to be, but I have to say that when it comes to my family and my home and the enjoyment of my home, that comes first, and we have to set it aside. And it's very unfortunate that this has happened. And I genuinely felt that once the applicant saw the opposition from the members or the neighbors, or close neighbors, that she would reconsider and withdraw her application. I genuinely thought that. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and I'm very disappointed. I hadn't planned on saying much more, but after listening to the applicant stand before you and basically present a sales pitch and say some things to you that simply aren't true, or that I feel aren't true. Excuse me, but could you not giggle like that, please? Okay, that's just rude. There's maybe I was a fool to think that they actually cared about their neighbors, okay? Because obviously they don't. I listened to her here tonight. I really hoped and thought that they would change their mind about this, okay? The high-intensity workouts, she advertises on Facebook. We have screenshots of Facebook. I believe you may have that. I sent it into the town, of what her types of workouts are. It's high intensity, it's boxing, it's this. It's like 5 or 6 different things. It's not just these simple little quiet workouts. We hear the music. She said that something about reaching out. Well, she didn't take the opportunity to reach out to any of her neighbors. She never came to any of us. And my wife has said that all along. Why didn't she come to us and ask us about this before she went forward with it? Maybe it could have saved some problems. Maybe we could have solved things ourselves. She didn't even take the opportunity to reach out to her neighbors. And like I said, we're good neighbors and we've got along fine with the Moores. Just on the application, she said that it's not KV Fitness, but in reading the submission for the application, it's for KV, or Hit 30 KV Fitness. So I don't understand how that's changed all of a sudden. And she said about moving the cars up past the house where we can't see. Well, we continue to see the cars. The cars are still there every day. She's not doing 3 or 4 people at a time. It's 6 or 8. I've counted 6, 8 cars all the time. The last week or so, 2 or 3. But I've also noticed cars coming in with 2 people in them. I hadn't planned to say all this stuff, but once I listened to the applicant, I'm like, I need to speak up. And as far as Black Bears baseball, it's listed as an organization. They have 75 members. They organize all these teams. They run this organization. They referred to it as an organization. It might be I'm sorry, I lost my words, but whether it's for money or not, it's a business and it's an organization and they're running it out of their home. The Tower Gardens, it's a business, she's running it out of her home. And both of those situations are in direct, there's no way that they can have another home occupation and comply with all the conditions of a home occupation with these other businesses running. So, I guess in closing, I just want to say that I hope that the committee recognizes the concerns of the people of Jester Court and the recommendations of the town staff and deny the application for the home occupation at 8 Jester Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. With that being the second time, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Could you please come up and state your name for the record, please?
Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Lisa Casey, and I'd like to start by letting you know that my husband, who's here with me this evening, and I have read the letters that were submitted in opposition to this home occupation, and we agree with every point that's been raised in them. Our family has lived at 1 Jester Court for almost 8 years now. We're a young family with school-aged children. The youngest children in the court reside with us. When we purchased our home in 2015, we never expected to have businesses, and I say businesses, across the street, especially given that it's a small court, as you've heard, with 6 homes within a much larger residential subdivision. Together with our neighbors, we represent a nice mix of retired, working, and school-aged residents. And it's also worth noting that we've got some residents in our court, one particular with severe mobility challenges, and one with health concerns, who have already been impacted by the applicant's decision to relocate what's in the application as Hit 30 KV Fitness to the court. The front yards of our homes all face one another, with no natural buffers between us, which makes protecting the privacy, well-being, and enjoyment of our properties that much greater. I suppose one benefit of having the business open prior to the approval for a home occupancy is that we've seen the impacts, and we've noticed those over the last several months. I was the one who submitted photos. That's taken from my front yard, and as you can see, there are far more than 4 vehicles coming and going and parked along the street. The court itself is a short cul-de-sac with a narrow entry, making it just wide enough for 2 cars to pass one another as they're coming and going. Our home is the entry point, so that means all traffic, can't use my hands. All traffic passes our driveway. We get bottlenecked easily with this traffic. It's a daily thing in the morning. Kids are coming and going. We've mentioned from the bus stops. There are several bus stops in our neighborhood for both the French and English schools, all grade levels. And then we don't see in this picture, and we're fortunate this winter not to have had a lot of snow, but when we do have a lot of snow, what happens when the plows travel through a court is they push it. So it's a pushback effort, which means you get a lot of high snow banks. When you get traffic in a court, whether it's moving traffic or parked traffic, it can impede your sight lines, which is a concern for us given the location of our house. We don't have the benefits of sidewalks in the court, nor am I asking for them. We also don't have street lighting after dark. So just another consideration for safety in the area. The court has always been a very safe space for us to come and go. If you ask anyone, I've always said that it's my favorite place to live, and I've got some of the best neighbors in the world. And it's great for children who ride their bikes and play in the area as well. And on weekday mornings and afternoons, it's not just the children in the court, but those who come through the court and in front of the court, just pass it to get to the buses. We've also got a very large community mailbox. When I say large, there are several slots, 20 or 30. I meant to count them on my way here, but didn't have time. But there are a lot of them directly across from the court, which means you get a lot of additional pedestrian movement in the area. So encouraging increased traffic from outside the neighborhood does pose a risk to our safety. We obviously share our neighbors' concerns with noise that stems from traffic to a business and fitness class activities. I mentioned already, we have no natural buffers to reduce this noise, and because we face each other, the sound is amplified. Cars that drop people off and sit and wait in the court to wait for them is, I would just say, an additional layer of discomfort to this entire scenario. You can imagine what that feels like in front of your house. And while we can imagine or appreciate that moving an established business from a commercial space to your home can significantly reduce overhead costs and the challenges that we've all faced during the pandemic, it's not in the best interest of those who live next door. My husband, children, and I are all members of several fitness facilities within Quispamsis. All of them operate in commercial spaces. So I think it's safe to say that health and wellness is important to all of us, and it expands far beyond coaching or the gym, and it includes safety, enjoyment, and the enjoyment we experience in and around our homes. Group fitness classes and other business-related activities promoted from 8 Jester Court, my suggestion would be, are best run through spaces that are designed and designated to accommodate such activity, considering customer traffic and parking requirements, the safety of neighbors, and sound sensitivities. As members of our PAC, my husband and I urge you to protect the intent of the town's zoning and municipal plan bylaws and follow the advice from your professional staff to deny the request for a home occupation at 8 Jester Court for HIT 30 kV fitness classes. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you. This will be the third and final time. Is there anyone else in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Could you please come up and state your name for the record, please?
My name's Anna Marie Golding, and I just basically wanted to speak on one main topic about the amount of cars in a driveway. So in my home, I have my husband's truck, I have a car, my 21-year-old son has a car, my daughter she's 19, she has a car. So at any particular day, there's at least 4 vehicles. Now, when my son's girlfriend comes over and my daughter's boyfriend, there's 6 cars, and then every Sunday, my mom and dad come out to visit. So it is nothing to see 7 cars in my driveway. And, snow removal with all of these cars we have quite a long driveway. It's tough sometimes, but we do it safely. The cars have to go out in order to snow blow, but I think most people are very realistic in how they do that. And I just wanted to mention that I'm one of Cheryl's online clients, and I can attest that there's no high intensity in these workouts. Is the music, I have it's not too loud, and I participate, and there's nothing. I've gone to the gym when she had the active, the brick and mortar gym, and it's not the same. Her business plan is completely changed because A lot of it is due to COVID and the changes that has brought about to women like myself at 56, menopause, your body changes, and so has her programs to comply with helping women navigate this stage of our life. And I just wanted to just to mention that.
All right, thank you very much. Third and final, you want to come up and state your name for the record, please?
My name is Pam Jones. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I feel that I am one of the participants at Cheryl's facility. If you want to call it that, we call it a family. There's 4 women who started with her in October, and it's still the same 4 women. It's not high intensity. Do I look like I'm high intensity? It's perimenopause women like myself who need to get out of my home, to go somewheres, to have support and community. I'm sorry for the traffic if they believe that there's the traffic. We're not 8, 15, 20 people coming. There's 4 of us. There's 4 vehicles. We have offered to compromise. We've moved times. We've offered to carpool. I've offered to walk there. We realize it is a residential area. We slow down. You cannot drive fast into that street. Just drive it yourselves. She's not high intensity. We're not out there slamming car doors and yelling and screaming. We leave, we get into our vehicles, we go home. It's a 30 minutes of our mental health. That's it. I have a group of friends that come over once a week. That's 5 cars in my driveway. So all my neighbors are gonna come here and say, I can't have 5 people at my home at once? That's ridiculous. It's a driveway. Who has the right to say that somebody can't have 5 cars in their driveway? Or what stops me from going to Cheryl's on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and having coffee with this group of women every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? So are they going to complain that I'm going over there to have coffee? Are they going to complain when their children are playing ball on her lawn? That's ridiculous. Our space, we have property lines for a reason. I just want you guys to know that Cheryl is not using high intensity. We are not out there causing trouble. We are a family and we support one another. And I'm sorry that you guys feel that she's lied to you, but she's a great person. And you guys are all sitting here judging her for making a big business and changing her life to make it a small, nice, beautiful business. And I just want you guys to understand that we're not out there causing trouble. We are willing to compromise, but don't take this away from her because some people don't want to work together as a team, because she is trying to work with you guys. She's trying to work with her neighbors. And it's sad to see people not trying to help each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Any other, someone else willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time. That's it. Okay, last one. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My name is Cheryl Logan. I am also one of Cheryl's clients. And I was one of Cheryl's clients when she owned a high-intensity gym. And like Pam, who spoke before me, you can tell by looking, I don't do high intensity. All right, I can't. I've been through 3 surgeries in this year alone, and Cheryl has worked with me through every one of those to make sure that I can maintain some level of fitness, some level of mobility. She's given me back my mobility in a lot of ways. So to what Pam was saying, there are 4 of us. 3 of us are here tonight to support Cheryl. The other one is here in spirit. We have become friends. We are people who will socialize together in other situations. It's not about high-intensity workouts. It's about learning how to live in the bodies that we have to age through. It does change you. It does change what you need from your fitness. Cheryl understands that. She's educated herself on those things specifically so she can offer that to a very small group, 4 of us, 4 other people who come after us a half hour later. We are all adults. We understand that traffic is a concern. We understand that there may be some noise associated with additional cars. We will do what we can to compromise that, carpool, whatever that is, to help reduce that. We are conscious of the fact that we're coming into a court. We live in residential areas too. But it is not uncommon, where I live, which is out on the Neck Road, it is not uncommon to see 5, 7, 10 cars, 3 trailers, 2 utility trailers, and somebody's snowblower in their driveway all the time. My neighbor has a Harley. He starts that thing up in the shed to reverberate the sound, just to really let us know it's going. It is incredibly loud, but it is his right to have a motorcycle. And so I don't complain about that because he's a good guy otherwise, you know, typically a good guy. He likes to ride his bike. I may want to have my music in the summer in our deck, sound travels. He doesn't complain about that. We work together to make sure we're not being unnecessarily loud. And I'm sorry, but car doors, automotive noise, and people speaking is part of urban life. It's going to happen, whether it's for us to come and be fit, or a large family to get together, or random people to show up and visit their friends. So I want to reiterate what Pam said. This is not high-intensity workouts. This is not 100 people coming to class all day, every day. It is 2 classes. They are 30 minutes long. They are very much low-intensity workouts because that is what we need as we age as women. So to take that away from us, from her, from all of this, is to take something out of the community that is benefiting people's mental, physical health, and our ability to be constructive members of this community, and would be really a great disappointment. The other 2 things, the Tower Gardens, she doesn't sell them out of her house. You can't go buy one from Cheryl's garage. Selling them or not selling them is no different than me having 10 people over on a Thursday night to watch my Roomba work because they want to drop $1,000 on theirs. It's the same thing. People are coming to see it before they spend a large amount of money. Could be anything. To Pam's point, we could be showing up there twice a day for book club. We could still have the music on, we could still be drinking the wine, we could be outside. So I recognize that there are some concerns. We will be sensitive to those concerns, but I impeach you, please. Reconsider your staff's recommendation and allow this to proceed, even if it's with conditions. Allow this to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Was there one last person that wanted to come up to the podium? None being, third and final time? Right, thank you. Could the applicant please come back up to the podium, please? Anything you'd like to add or discuss based on the conversations that were just held?
Again, just to touch on what my friends had said, is the legal name of my business was Hit 30 KV Fitness, and that is where I am insured. Majority, again, you need to have insurance to even teach online, personal liability. So the legal name is that. Cheryl Moore Coaching follows under that. So whenever I fill anything out, it's going to come up as Hit 30 because that is the legal name. Many companies have an umbrella name or a legal name. Anyway, it is obviously not high-intensity interval training. I no longer teach men and women and children HIIT classes anymore. So that's been said a number of different ways. And again, you know, to just their points of, you know, what if it was a book club? What if it's just a bunch of girls? What constitutes a visitor? What is the definition of a visitor? In my immediate family, not even Rob's, there's 26 people in my immediate. That's my brothers and sisters, my mom, my nieces, my nephews. That's my immediate family. What constitutes a visitor? My mom's afraid to come over for fear that, you know, my sisters are nervous to come over for fear that they're gonna get me in trouble.
I don't think that's a concern about the visitors. I think it's more what's happening at the residence, the work. It's not the visitors. No one's here debating visitors.
Mm-hmm.
It's the traffic, parking on the street, I'll say the businesses that are presumed to be going on in your dwelling. That's why we're here. It's not about the visitors. It's about the home occupation patients that's happening within that residence, because in the town, you're only allowed to have one home occupation business. So that's what we're here to talk about, and that's what we're here to discuss. It's not about, everyone's allowed to have visitors at the house. Everyone's aware of that. So that's what we're trying to understand and figure out here as members of PAC. You know, where's the line? Where's the lines get drawn? What's happening? What's actually going on? Just make sure that we're trying to comply with the bylaws of the town of Quispamsis. That's why we're here.
So could I just talk about it being, I don't want to get roped in here with black bears, but I guess it'd be my case would be no different than Derek Doucette running KB Minor Ball. I put it as my address at our home because I'm actually trying to save the organization money. So we actually did have a PO box, and I've moved the location to receiving the mailer. Nothing to do with softball happens at I wish I had a field and I wish I could do stuff at the home, but it's unfortunate it doesn't. We just do, it's just there for mail purposes only, and you have to have a registered address. So as far as everything working out of there, doing anything, it's a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit organization. It's not registered as a business, and furthermore, it's just everything's done online. You know what I mean? And same with the Tower Guard. Everything's done online. It's shipped direct right from. So you ordered online, it ships direct to you from whoever the buyer. So it's an online multi-level marketing business.
But I just don't even know how you could police that with all of the different businesses that are out there, right? There's Pampered Chef, there's Arbonne, there's so many Monet, there's so many companies that have direct sales business. Like
Yeah, no, we're aware of that. We're
Okay.
just that everything just came up and it's all in one setting. That's what we're here to discuss.
Okay.
So.
And just to summarize, everything is just so everybody's clear is that we're very much aware of what they're concerned about, and we understand it. We are really quick to pivot on it really quick, as you know Jennifer can admit to. Is that's why we staggered the time so there's no overlap in traffic. That's why everybody parks in the driveway, and I sent pictures yesterday and just saying, hey, here's what it's going to be like, and it's not even going to be to that extent anymore because we've staggered the times.
Is there any? I just throw one out there. Like, I guess everyone got up here and talked about how good all the neighbors were there. Why didn't you discuss that with your neighbors in the first place?
Sincerely, I didn't think it was any different than having a Bible study. I sincerely didn't think it was any different than having some girlfriends over. I didn't see, because it's not going to be any bigger than this. It can't be. It's my home. And yeah, so I sincerely didn't think
Okay.
it would be
Thank
an
you.
issue.
And hey, I've known one of my neighbors for a long, long period of time. We used to play baseball together. And we've known our Mr. and Mrs. King beside us for a long period of time because we used to live in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's, we knew everybody in that court coming in. We're not here to try to make their life harder. We're not. We sincerely did not think there would be, we never give it a thought. So it's not even saying we didn't think about it. We didn't think about it because, it's her living. You know what I mean? To take that contributes to us being able to live there. You know what I mean? So.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
It's genuine from our heart. We did not mean to cause any grief with anybody.
All right. Thanks. Dwight or Jennifer, you want to add anything there? Or? Jennifer?
The only point that I wanted to make, Mr. Chair, was the discussion about vehicles parking, and my mother and my brother and everybody comes parking at any residence. That parking with your family that's incidental to the use of the home, where a business is a need that parking will be X amount of cars every day on those days. So there is a difference between your parents coming to park and you having a family get together, and then the parking that would be required for a business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please? Anyone want to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? Brenda?
Mr. Chair, I can try, it'll take a while. I make a motion that the Planning Advisory Committee deny the request to operate the home occupation of the HIIT 30 kV fitness classes at 8 Jester Court, PID 302033376, as it is not in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaws 038, Section 6K, and the municipal plan section bylaw section 7.31. Based on the concerns received, there is an impact on the quality of life of the residents of Jester Court. Therefore, the imposing of additional terms and conditions beyond those of Section 6K2 that would reasonably be expected to be complied with and enforced to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the general public are beyond the intent of the municipal plan to permit home occupations in residential neighborhoods. I make that motion.
Thank you, Brenda. Can I have a seconder on that? Can I have a seconder? Oh, Mark?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Any debate on that motion? None being, can we have a vote, please? That motion's been carried by a vote of 4-2 for the denial of the request to operate a home occupation of HIT 30 kV fitness class at 8 Jesper Court, PID 302-03376. Next 5 to 7 business days, you have a letter in the mail. Thank you. That being, we'll move on to item 7C, B provisions, zoning bylaw amendment 2023-021. Jennifer, you want to introduce this topic?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just gonna gather myself here. Here we go. All right. So the B bylaw, the zoning bylaw amendment to provide provisions for apiaries within the town of Quispamsis is back up on the docket at council and has since been referred to the PAC for their comments. In April of 2021, the town had received concerns about bees and being kept and some bee excrement and whatnot happening on neighboring properties. So by the council instructed staff to come up with some provisions, provide lot requirements, the zones where the beekeeping would be permitted, the number of beehives on a lot, identify setbacks, etc. So we did that, and on May 17th, we held a public hearing and to a packed house, and staff received several concerns from the first iteration of the bylaw. So the first was originally, it was written to go before PAC. There were concerns with the $300 charge, and the question was, we've provided all these provisions. If they're being met, then is there really a requirement to go before PAC? So I spoke with the lawyer and we revised the bylaw and are quite confident that staff have the provisions written enough in the bylaw that this could be managed without the use of PAC. The concern, of course, was the $300 additional fee on top of the other costs of beekeeping. It's a hobby. It was just felt that it was a little outside of what was required. The second change, originally we slated that there were two beehives permitted within a residential area, within an R1 residential area. That's been increased to 4 after meeting with beekeepers and the apiarist for the province. And having a better understanding of the life of a beehive and how they grow and then shrink. So the added hives are required just to allow for that growth and shrinking of the colony. So that has been changed. And third and final change that was made is the recommendation from our lawyer for town solicitor was to include liability insurance. Staff did call around to several insurance companies, and unless it's a large bee honey operation, there really isn't any type of liability insurance, so that has also been removed. Other than that, the bylaw remains much the same, except for 2 other additions. One is a definition for a nuisance, and that's in response to the concerns of that brought the request forward originally. And we've also strengthened the language concerning offenses in the language within the bylaw itself, section 26. And I believe that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. Bishop.
I have a question through you, Mr. Chair, Jennifer. So back when that homeowner came with the having their bees in their backyard, I know there were some things that were recommended for them to do that they weren't doing. I think there was, water supplied with, whether it was gravel or limestone or something like that in it. I'm just curious, did they do that and did it work? Did it help? How did that, that I guess problem get solved? Or did it?
We haven't heard any further complaints, so I don't really know and where we have no provisions. There's no means for me to investigate that, I guess. Thank you.
Dwight?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Jennifer answered basically what I was going to respond to Mr. Bishop, so.
Any other members of PAC have any questions for town staff?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mark here.
Yes, Mark?
I get just clarification perhaps here. On Article Clause D, the hobby beekeeping limited to maximum of 4 beehives per lot. So if you got garden homes, you got, let's say, two house within a lot, are you allowed 8 or 4 only?
Bear with me for just one moment, please.
D.
Yeah, Jennifer's looking that up, Mark.
Okay.
That would be 4 per lot.
So it's driven by the lot, not the number. So
That's
an
correct.
apartment building, for example, let's see if you have a 6 apartment building on a lot that is less than 1,140 square meters, you would be allowed 4, even though it's share property, like with several different tenants on the building.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The bylaw is written in a way that it is only permitted without PAC approval in an R1 or an RU zone. So if it did, if someone in an apartment complex was requesting this, it would actually have to come before PAC.
Okay, thank you.
It is 4 per lot, Mark.
Yeah, okay. No, I just want to clarify, that's all. And on G, it says a continuous source of water. So does this mean running water?
It doesn't sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, not necessarily running water, but A kiddie swim pool would suffice as long as there is water and it's maintained. That should suffice. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have
need
to be
have
running.
water.
No.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need, yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions for town staff? Would a member of PAC like to put a motion forward against with terms and conditions, please?
I'll put a motion forward, Mr. Chairman, to, let me see, I got, where's,
Council said a direct.
okay, I'm sorry. PAC to review the proposed zoning bylaw amendment concerning apiary operation and submit written reviews to council pursuant to section 110 of Community Planning Act.
Yeah, I think the recommendation would be that council direct the town clerk to set a public meeting. Is that what we're looking for?
No, that's the other memo.
Okay, sorry, I got the wrong memo. You're right, Mark, sorry. I'm reading the wrong thing.
Did I get the right one?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
I'm
sorry.
wrong. Can we have a seconder on that? Kendall,
I'll second it.
on the motion, any debate? None, can we have a vote, please? That motion's carried to make that recommendation go to council. On item 8, can I have a motion to receive and file? Mr. Guest.
So moved.
Mr. Bishop? Or Brenda, one of you want to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we have a vote on that, please? Motion carried unanimously. Item 9, motion to adjourn. Mr. Bishop?
So moved.
Can I have a seconder on that, please?
Second, Mark.
Mark, thank you. Meeting has been adjourned. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Have a good week, or a good 2